All right, what's going on, guys? In this video, I want to cover my six-figure content client signing system. There's gonna be three big things that I want to talk about in today's video. All right, so first of all, we're gonna talk about why most coaches are literally just not getting enough leads right now. We're gonna talk about why people are not engaging with their content. Lots of coaches right now I'm talking to, they're like, hey, I can't even get people to DM me. I can't even get them to want to talk to me. So we're gonna talk about why that's going on. Ultimately, the third thing I want to cover today is what is the fix to all of this? How do we get people to engage with us? How do we get people to be interested in paying attention to what it is we're actually doing in the online space? Because if we can't get people to pay attention to us, then obviously we can't actually sign any clients. And so today, again, the six-figure content client signing system, we're going to cover the whole thing in depth. And so go get a notebook if you need to, pull out a whiteboard, whatever that looks like. We're going to dive in deep today. So by the way, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Tel, and I've created more than 60,000 pieces of content over the last 9 years. Now, I know that sounds crazy. Content has been my main form of landing clients. I got started all the way back in 2016 over on Twitter. And so I have created businesses on Twitter. I've created businesses on Facebook groups. I've used Facebook profiles. I have used Instagram. I've used email. I've used podcast. I've used YouTube. I've literally been on all of the different platforms and landed clients and used the strategies for the given platform. So today what I want to do is I just want to pull back and I just want to explain to you and break down what I'm seeing as the most simple way to land clients here. Right now it's August of 2025. This is really what I'm going to be tapped into for the rest of this year going into next year, 2026. And so, by the way, I'm a fitness coach. If you don't know who I am, I'm a fitness coach. My name is Tel. My wife is a fitness coach. Like, we are actively in the fitness industry. We actually met at my gym, Kings Barbell, back in 2019. And so I give you a little bit of context there to basically just say like, hey, I understand what it's like to be a fitness coach. I've been in your shoes. I know what it takes to actually grow a fitness business. And actually today, there's been more than 10 million in sales that's been attributed to this system and this process and everything that I'm going to lay out for you. And so I want to start by taking you all the way back to the beginning of all of this. It's August of 2016. So it's August of 2016, the fall semester of college is starting up. I'd actually just dropped out of college the previous semester, and I was starting an online fitness coaching business. So I got super into fitness. I dropped out of college, like I said. I knew that I wanted to pursue being an entrepreneur, building businesses, like that. That was the path that I wanted to take. And so I'd started posting on social media a few months prior. The issue I was running into at this point was I just didn't have enough leads for my business. I was getting a few clients here and there. Most of the clients I was getting were just from my personal network. It was like people that I actually knew. And so the issue I was running into around this time of August 2016 was that I just literally was not getting enough leads to be able to actually like grow my business. And so I started taking this social media game a lot more seriously. I started looking into what are people doing? How are people posting? I started to learn about the fact that there's people using DM scripts and sales scripts, and that there was all this business systems and lead generation stuff that was happening behind the scenes of these fitness coaches that I'm following, that I'm seeing of people being successful, right? And so I learned how to begin generating leads on social media. This is one of the very first things that I figured out. I was able to figure out, how do I actually post content that goes viral? How do I post content that gets lots of engagement? How do I post content that is going to grow my following? Again, I was on Twitter, right? I was on X. And so at the time in 2016, I was able to get to a point where I was growing consistently by around 800 to 1,000 followers every single month. The issue I was running into at this point, though, was that it just seemed like I never had enough leads. So I'm getting all these followers. I'm doing all of the things, right? I'm sending the DMs. I'm posting the hard calls to action. The way that I can describe my business, the way that it kind of felt, though, is that every single month I felt like I was just starting over. Every single month was a new month. I posted all of the content. I posted all the calls to actions. I reached out to people. People either purchased or they didn't purchase. And then I was always like, cool, like who's the next person? I was always searching for like, who's the next sales call? How can I actually get more leads, more sales calls, objection handle these sales calls, like get people over the line? The business, the best way to describe it was, it felt like a little bit scary and a little bit shaky because my goal at the time was not really to post content to actually like indoctrinate or to nurture people or to actually, really get them to buy into like my way of doing things. The only way I can describe it is like it was built on lots of hype, lots of FOMO, lots of just, again, how do I get the lead? How do I get them on a call? How do I objection handle and get them into the program? Which was also leading to, on the other side of things, a couple months in, like people just like actually leaving the program because they weren't fully bought in. And so then fast forward a little bit, and I was on a mastermind call, and I ran into this guy named Alex Ramosi. All right, this was before he had like completely blown up. And on that mastermind call, he was talking a lot about lead generation. He was talking about offers. He was talking about like, how do you actually grow your business? And one of the questions came up was like, how do we actually get leads? Like, how do we start getting more clients? And he challenged us with a question where he said, how differently would you show up inside your business if you could never get another friend on Facebook, or if you could never get another follower, over on Instagram? Like, what if you could never get another lead? How much differently would you actually show up inside your business then? What else would you do inside your social media? Like how would you switch the content you were creating, or how would you switch your outreach and your DMs? Like what would you do differently if you could never get another lead? And in that moment, there was a huge just like epiphany for me, just like a complete switch where I started to realize like, oh, I've been thinking completely the wrong way when it comes to social media. I was thinking way too short term. There was way too much hype, way too much FOMO, way too much just getting people over the line, getting them onto a sales call as quickly as I could. And I just wasn't thinking in the right terms. I wasn't thinking long-term enough. And so today's entire training is built off of, again, the accumulation of these 9 years of just the things that I have learned about how to actually use your social media to warm people up, to get them actually interested in what you're doing, so that by the time you turn them into clients, they're already sold on who it is you are, they're sold on what it is you do, and they actually become good long-term, good quality clients. People that want to stay with you, not just for a few weeks and then leave, but people that want to stay with you for months and months, if not years and years. And so based on that epiphany moment, again, is where this whole idea of the content client signing system came from. The way that I begin to view things, and the way that I want you to, if you're taking notes or anything, the way I want you to begin viewing your social media is viewing this as a content ecosystem. All right, it's not just about how do we just post some content, get somebody into the DMs, get them onto a sales call. It's about how do we create a content ecosystem. The first thing I want to talk about with the content ecosystem, a belief that you really want to hold if you want this to be successful, if you actually care about content and you care about genuinely connecting with people, is number one, we need to start by figuring out what do you actually enjoy? What do you actually want to talk about? What is the mission that you actually want to crusade? Like what are you going to lead in the online space? It needs to feel like you're actually building a movement. The reason why so many coaches right now are just struggling, the reason why their content's not working, the reason why, hey, like nobody's actually engaging with them is because they're just showing up and they're posting the things that they feel like they have to post. Or they're using ChatGPT to try to say the right things. They think that like, hey, if I just say the right things, like if it sounds good, that's going to be the thing that gets me clients, versus actually having a message, something they back and something that they believe in. And so the first thing before we even dive into, we're going to dive into the tactics of, where are we posting? What are we posting? All that type of stuff. But the first thing that you really need to understand if you want to be successful in the online space is that you have to lead with something that you're actually passionate about. Like if you are just showing up and you are just checking boxes, you're just posting to post, it's not going to work. You're not going to get clients. That's something I can promise you. There are just far too many passionate coaches in the online space right now to be able to just check boxes and just throw up another 3 chest tips or another 3 fat loss tips and expect to get clients. You really have to have something that you believe and something that you back 100%. And so the context here is I want you to think as we go through these next few moments. We're not just here to generate leads. If you want to succeed online, we have to begin shifting the narrative to how do we build a community? How do we build a tribe of like-minded people? We're not here to get thousands and thousands and millions of followers. We are here to build a small, robust tribe of people. We're here to bring together a community of like-minded people that share the same interests in the things that you like, that have an interest in the cause that you are actually setting out to build, that actually are a good fit for this movement that you're trying to create, this difference that you're trying to bring to the online space. Back when I was struggling with content, again, the only thing that I was thinking about is how do I get another person? How do I create some tension and some FOMO and some hype so that I can get them onto a call, get them into the program, and then it was right back to social media to try and create all this hype and FOMO again. And what I was not getting was I was not getting good, high quality clients that actually were a good fit for my program. And so again, it was not until I understood this difference. It's not about just signing clients to sign clients. It's not just about getting leads to get leads. It's all about how do we get the right leads? How do we sign the right clients? People that are actually going to stay with us for 12, 24, 36 months. So that over time, as the program builds, we don't have to start over every single month feeling like we need tons of leads. We got to go chase sales. We got to just drag people over the line to be able to pay the bills. And so I just want to say that nowadays, it is not uncommon for people to stay and work with me for 18, 24 plus months. And this is the kind of like world that you want to be creating in the online space. Again, it's not just about signing clients, it's about signing the right clients. And so when I first got started, like I said, I've done all the different funnels. I've done all the different platforms. When I first started out over on Twitter, the whole thing over there was how do we create a bunch of content? How do we get all of the followers and the people that are consuming the content to then fill out an opt-in, get into an email list. And then on my email list, I was sending daily newsletters, daily emails that ultimately led people to getting on a sales call. So that was kind of my funnel flow. Get them on Twitter, get them onto my profile. The next step was, hey, get them onto my email list. I'm sending emails every single day. And then the goal is to get them on a sales call. Then I started to figure out like, hey, you can actually use the DMs as well. And I figured out, hey, DM scripts were a thing. And so then from there, it was like, cool, well, how do I get people onto the newsletter? But then also, how do I get people into the DMs? And then how do I use the DMs to actually like nurture people, to follow up with them, to get them lots of resources? And I was finding, hey, when I did that, those people also would get on sales calls. So now I kind of had two different ways that I was getting clients. And then over time, I was in 2021, I actually started to realize, hey, Facebook groups, you can kind of actually combine all this stuff together. And if I just start a Facebook group, I can post content in the Facebook group, I can send DMs to the people in the Facebook group, and I can actually combine everything that I was doing over here on Twitter. I can create good videos, I can create good content, I can actually go live inside of the Facebook group. Then I can also be sending DMs to people that are in the Facebook group. I can get resources and all those types of things. I can create a guides tab, right, where I can put all my different resources and things. And so the Facebook group became a really cool place to build a community. In fact, what we found is that it was a super powerful system that when we originally launched our Facebook group, we went on to do $32,000 in cash collected in the first 45 days. And the cool thing was that we only had 150 group members at the time. And so things back then were starting to really click with me where I was like, man, it seems like there's something there. It wasn't quite, the full picture wasn't quite there for me, but I was realizing, dude, if you build communities, if you create these, because it was a private Facebook group, I was like, if you create these like gated communities and you don't just chase anybody and everybody, but you get the right people that are actually a good fit for your program. If you can get the right people into your world and you can really nurture them and you can create really good content for them and you can provide as much value to them as possible and talk to them and engage with them and nurture them, that these people are the ones that were becoming these really good long-term clients. But I was still running into this same problem over with the Facebook group, which was that the way the algorithm worked was, I'd go live, I'd create these really good trainings over there, I'd give away all my best resources. I was putting all this effort into this Facebook group. But the thing was, the way the algorithms worked was that everything would just be gone within 24 hours. So I would go live in the Facebook group and I would drop like a paid client level training. I mean, it was such a good masterclass. And then literally within 24 hours, it was just completely gone and off the timeline. So all this effort was going into content creation and I wasn't getting very much effort out of it. I wasn't getting very much like life out of that piece of content. So tons of effort and then the content just lives for a little while. But again, the thing that I was beginning to develop and the thing I was beginning to realize, again, this is back in 2021, was that the more I could get people to binge my content, the more content they actually consumed, the easier and easier sales were getting. And not only were sales getting easier, but the clients that I was signing were getting better and better and better. So I wasn't creating all of this hype. I wasn't creating all of this FOMO. I wasn't having to generate 800 to 1,000 leads. I also wasn't having to start over every single month. What I was realizing is that when I was creating really good targeted content for the right people, that again, sales were happening at a much faster rate. The sales were much easier. I wasn't having to objection handle so much. I wasn't having to book in 2, 3, 4 sales calls. People were coming to these calls and they were just ready to purchase. And so content for me, again, like I said, has been the key thing that I've done over the last 9 years of building businesses. So there are three things. Again, this kind of all encompasses, I call this the content ecosystem. And I hope that you can understand the idea, again, the whole big idea behind the content ecosystem is it's about bringing in the right people into the system, exposing them to the right content in the right way at the right times so that they can go from cold to sold. They can actually come into your world, they can figure out who it is you are, what it is you do, how it is you help them, and the content itself is the thing that does a lot of the selling for us. And so there's gonna be 3 key pillars inside of the content ecosystem that I wanna cover today so that you can begin to set this up and build this for yourself. So the first thing we're going to cover is we need to give people hours and hours of content to be able to consume. And I'm going to explain how to be able to do this and how to do this in a way where it's actually serving you, like as in the content lives long term. It's not something that just, again, like I was saying, the issue with Facebook groups we're running into is content would live for 24 hours and then it was gone. How do we actually create hours and hours of content that also has a long shelf life? The second thing we're going to talk about is how to create painkiller content. I'm going to explain what exactly that is. It's very niche, very potent content that to the right person is the perfect content. It's exactly what it is they need to hear. And then number 3, we're going to talk about how do we actually make it easy for people to take the next step with us. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about consuming hours and hours of content. This is really the key. When I was struggling with my business and content, the thing was I was creating content, but I was never creating content with the intentions of warming people up. I was creating content with the intentions of scarcity, urgency, FOMO, just how do I get people to book in a call and get them into my program? When I switched to this new way, when I started to realize that, hey, there's this content ecosystem, and if I just bring people in and I let the content just sit with them and I let them go through as much of my content as possible, what I was finding again is that people were coming to sales calls already pre-sold. People were coming to sales calls and they were talking about, dude, I've been watching all of your live streams and, when you talked about this, this, and this over in that one video, I was like, oh, Tell gets it. And, that's exactly what's happening to me. And that's exactly why I was like, dude, I need to work with you. Again, I was finding that the more effort I was putting into putting out the right content, that people were actually coming to these calls pre-sold. And so at the time, what I was doing is I started out by live streaming into my Facebook group twice a week. Again, the issue was within 24 hours, It was completely gone from the feed. So I'm creating, these presentations, I'm putting all this effort into it, I'm creating all these live trainings. So much work's going into it. 24 hours later, it's like I never even created the training to begin with. So these were like actual paid client level trainings. Again, I'm putting like so much effort into this stuff. And so I started experimenting with different things. I started to think through the concept. I was like, cool, like what am I ultimately trying to do here? What I'm ultimately trying to do here is I'm trying to let people binge my stuff. I'm trying to let them go super deep with me. And so I was like, well, why can't that be just like different, why can't that happen in different mediums? Why can't I start creating ebooks? Why can't I start creating Loom videos? Why can't I shoot podcasts? Why can't I shoot YouTube videos? Like things that I can actually use for a long time. A live stream, it's on the feed and then it's completely gone. Why don't I create things that I can use over and over and over and over again? And again, what I was finding is that when people consume this stuff, they actually wanted to become clients. And so this developed what I've now kind of begun to call like the 1 hour, 1K rule. And what the 1 hour rule basically states is that for every hour of content somebody consumes, they'd be willing to spend roughly $1,000 with you. And so the goal stopped to being like, how do I just rush to get people in a sales call ASAP? And the goal started to be, how do I get people to consume literally hours and hours and hours of content? So for instance, if you have a 2K program, you would need people to consume roughly 2 hours of content. In an ideal world, you want them to consume roughly 2 hours of content before you ever have any sort of sales conversation with them. Because at 2 hours of content consumed, they're going to be willing to spend roughly $2,000 with you. They're going to come to that sales call. They're going to have gone through, again, like let's say you're putting out 10, 15, 20-minute videos. They're going to have gone through half a dozen videos or half a dozen trainings that you've put out on social media. And they're going to have a good idea of like what it is you actually do. You're not going to get people coming to sales calls being like, oh, like what is it that you do? And how is it that you're different? And why should I go with you versus somebody else, right? They're going to have already consumed a bunch of your content. They're going to understand what you do and how you help people. And so the insight that I really began to see and understand at a deeper and deeper level is that when I posted bad content, again, just this hypey, pushy, scarcity, FOMO type content, that sales were really hard. It wasn't that I couldn't get sales calls booked in, but it was that I had to do tons of objection handling, tons of just explaining to people why I was different, tons of just dragging people across the line. And it wasn't that you couldn't land some clients here and there doing things that way. Typically what ended up happening is you would end up signing the wrong clients, right? Because these were not clients that came in understanding like what you were about to begin with. And so you would get people that almost on like a values level just were not a good fit for you and your program. And so the flip side of that, I started to realize that, hey, bad content makes sales hard and good content makes sales easier. That the more content somebody consumed, the easier they were to enroll into the program because they already knew what I was about. And so what I started to really experiment with was creating more of this long form content, again, because 1 hour of content was roughly $1,000 that they'd be willing to spend. But what I started to experiment with was using YouTube and podcasts specifically. Now, the reason that I love these two platforms is because the content on these platforms lives for a really long time. For instance, like podcast, you can go back and there's lots of podcasts that I still listen to that I'm listening to episodes that were literally created a year ago, right? I'm watching YouTube videos and I'll look down and I'll realize, hey, this YouTube video was posted 2 years ago. And this just doesn't happen with a lot of the other, platforms. Like for instance, again, I keep bringing it up, but like Facebook live streaming, right? Facebook live streaming, you live stream, you're lucky if that thing lives for 48 hours. You put all this effort into creating this piece of content and then it's just completely gone. So I started to realize, hey, if I need people to binge my content, why don't I create a world where the content, this long form content that I'm putting so much effort into, becomes a long-term asset? Why don't I put some effort into creating stuff that's really, really good that 2 years from now is still going to be getting me leads, still going to be getting me clients, and still getting me results from the work that I did 2 years ago? And so the way that I'm now approaching things is understanding that there is short form content and there's long form content. All right. Short form content, this looks like profile content. The way I actually like visualize short form content is this is content that takes you roughly anywhere from like 3 seconds to consume to upwards of like maybe a minute or two. So this is like, written captions. This would be things like tweets. This would be things like your stories. This would be things like a reel, for instance. Like it's just something that's like super easy to consume. It's a quick hitter. It's a short little piece of content. But again, in the grand scheme of getting someone to consume an hour worth of content, it's like, man, if you're only posting 7-second reels, somebody's going to consume like years and years and years worth of reels to reach that 1 hour of content consumed. And so the whole goal with short form content, again, this is really just profile content. That's kind of maybe the easy way to view it, is really just to capture people's attention. We capture people's attention. We get them to pay a little bit of attention to what we're doing, to maybe get a little bit interested. And then the next goal is to get them onto one of these long form platforms. And on these long form platforms, people are able to go really deep. People are able to binge our stuff, listen to, 7 podcast episodes, go through 20 YouTube videos, and just rack up hours and hours and hours of content consumed, which ultimately, again, we're going to get into next, what is the right content to be posting. But if you're posting the right content, it's going to be pre-selling them. And so the content is now what is doing all of this selling and warming up for us. So we're posting long form, we're posting short form. The takeaway here and the tactical, practical piece here, the thing that we need to spend a little bit of time talking through is this needs to be simple. And so the first thing to be able to think about your content ecosystem, we need to begin thinking about short form, long form, hours and hours of content consumed. We need to go ahead and pick a channel. So what I don't recommend, one of the biggest reasons why coaches struggle to scale, the reason they're struggling to get clients right now, is because they're just spread way too thin. They've got a podcast and a YouTube channel and an email list, and they've got a Facebook, and they've got a Facebook group, and they've got an Instagram, right? And they're trying to be over on TikTok as well, and then they're posting on YouTube Shorts. Like, they're just doing way too much. What I recommend is you pick one single channel and you fully optimize for one single channel. And that single channel is going to become really the short form platform that you're going to use. And so this looks like probably using either an Instagram or a Facebook profile or using a Twitter. And that platform is going to become your main go-to platform. This is going to be the start to the entire content ecosystem for you. This is going to be the place where you attract your audience. This is going to be the place where you're gaining followers, you're gaining some eyeballs. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out what is going to be your long form platform. The two main ones that I recommend right now is either using a YouTube channel or using a podcast. So I personally use a YouTube channel. My wife has a podcast. Both of them absolutely work. It really comes down to, your style of content creation, what's going to feel most natural to you. Are you more of like a podcast, like a talker? Do you like being on video? Do you like being on camera? If so, maybe YouTube is going to make more sense for you. But this is the decision that we need to make here. Which platform are you going to be on for your short form content? Again, we're not trying to be on multiple different platforms, spread way too thin. And then where are you going to actually post your long form content? So that's decision number one that we need to make. Once we've made this decision, the next thing we have to talk about is creating painkiller content. Cool. I've picked a platform. For instance, right now I'm using my Facebook profile and I'm using my YouTube channel. All right. That's the two platforms that I've chosen. What do we actually post now on these profiles? How do we actually get people to be interested in what it is we're doing? That's going to be the second thing now we have to talk about. And so I talk about creating what I call painkiller content. Right? Painkiller content is content that is built specifically for your ideal client. We're no longer posting random content. We're no longer chasing viral trends, negative hooks. We're not, paying attention to doing all of the gimmicky things in the content world. We are focused on ideal client psychology. All right. We're actually thinking about who is the ideal client? What does the ideal client need to hear from us today? What is the message that I am going to deliver in the online space? What I realized is that if I posted the right content, right, first of all, I started to think about who is my ideal client? Who do I actually want to work with? Who do I want to work with? Who are they? What does a day in their life look like? What do they ultimately want to achieve? How am I actually going to help them? I began to realize that, hey, there's really only one type of person that I want to work with. Because again, remember in the past, I was just signing anybody and everybody. I was generating all the leads. I'm always starting over. I started to realize, hey, there's actually one dream ideal client. There's one person that I would love to serve. And so painkiller content is really focused around how do we begin to build niche content? How do we actually begin to dig in and go an inch wide and a mile deep? How do we just go all in on one single avatar, one single person? And again, I started to realize that when I posted the right content that actually spoke to the right person, my content became like a radio dial where, when you're spinning that radio dial, you're tuning into a very specific frequency. And when you're tuned into a frequency, the only thing you hear is that radio station, that radio wave that you're tuned into. And all of the other radio stations are completely silent. This is how your content should come across to your ideal client. To your ideal client, your content, just like those radio waves, should be off the chart. When they fall on your social media profile, it should just be like brain waves are going crazy and they're just like, dude, this is the coach for me. And then to everybody else, they should land in your profile and it should almost be boring. They should see your content and just be like, dude, this is not it. This is not the coach for me. This doesn't even click with me. There's no vibe here. Like I'm not even interested in following this coach and what they're doing. That's the type of content that painkiller content is. So painkiller content, it speaks directly to the ideal client. It speaks to their pain points, their problems, their frustrations, what it is they actually want, their dreams, their desires. We go all in on creating a social media profile for this one and only specific person. And so this is why, again, so many coaches are struggling, right? It can seem really obvious here, but so many coaches, and even me back in 2016, I was just chasing viral trends. I was just chasing what's going to get lots of eyeballs. I was just chasing what's going to get me lots of followers. I wasn't actually thinking about who was the specific person that I wanted to work with. And so in order to create painkiller content, there's going to be 4 specific things that we're going to focus on. Number one, when it comes to content, good content is relevant. All right, good content is relevant. If you're taking notes, I would encourage you to write down these next 4 points. All right, good content is relevant. When I talk about relevant content, what I'm meaning is it speaks directly to the ideal client. It speaks to their frustrations. It speaks to their problems. It speaks to their pains. It speaks to their dreams, their goals. It speaks to exactly who they are, why they're stuck, and ultimately how you can help them achieve the things they want to achieve. All right, content relevancy is about helping people see and understand, hey, I know exactly who you are. I know exactly what you're struggling with. I know what keeps you awake at night, and I have a solution for solving this. So if we want to create content that is actually signing clients for us, that's doing all of the pre-selling, that before somebody even comes to a sales call, they are sold on us, what it is we do, how it is we can help, we have to start taking content relevancy very serious. It's not just about posting another 3 chest tips or another 3 diet tips. It's posting specific, relevant content to the ideal client. Number 2, good content needs to be authentic, meaning that it actually needs to showcase who it is we are, what it is we do, our values, what we stand for, because we have to remember that people don't buy coaching, they buy coaches. All right, people are not signing up to a program, they are signing up to the person who is actually leading that program. This is super important. We live in a day and age where lots of people are just using ChatGPT, they're literally just copying posts. It's not about sounding good. It's not about saying the quote unquote right things. People want to connect with you. They're not buying programs, they're buying coaching from the coach, all right? They're buying into you as the leader. And so good content needs to be authentic. It needs to actually showcase who it is we are. We need to speak in our own voice. We need to speak in our own authentic message. And I know this one seems a little bit woo-woo, but this is a big piece right now. So many coaches are not even posting real authentic content. It's just copy and pasted. This is why templates don't really work. Prompts can be good for getting different ideas. ChatGPT can be good for coming up with topics and things like that, but it's not good for actually creating client signing content. The third thing is that good content needs to be belief shifting. All right, so number 1, good content needs to be relevant. Number 2, good content needs to be authentic. Number 3 is that it needs to be belief shifting, meaning that our ideal client has to see and understand why they're not succeeding. They need to understand why everything they've done in the past has failed, right? In 2025, like everybody has purchased some sort of like fitness product. They've done Jenny Craig, or they've done the supplement diets. You know, they've maybe at this point they've done Ozempic or something like that, right? Like everybody has done something. And so one of the biggest uphill battles that we actually have is not actually even convincing people that we can help them, right? Like so many coaches, they think that, oh, like nobody sees me as the authority figure. It actually doesn't take a lot to be seen as the authority figure. One of the biggest reasons why people are not joining programs is because they have so many fears, they have so many doubts, and they don't actually believe that they can get results. And so when it comes to creating content that signs clients, we actually have to shift and understand, why do people not even believe they can get results? And we have to shift that. We have to shift the narrative, shift the conversation, and help them see that, hey, in our program, you actually could get results. And then the fourth thing is that good content needs to be consistent. So if we're going to sign clients and we're going to use content to do a lot of the pre-selling for us, it's going to have to be consistent. It's going to have to be dialed in, speaking directly to relevancy. It's going to have to be authentic. It's going to have to be a unique message. It's going to have to shift the beliefs and help people believe in themselves. And then that's going to have to happen consistently. All right. One of the biggest things that actually will hold a coach back is they'll post some content. They won't see results after a week. They'll get frustrated. They'll shift everything again. They'll tear it all down. If you're going to want to build a business to six figure plus, and content is going to be one of the core pieces. Like I said, I've been posting content for 9 years. You're going to have to post. You're going to have to be consistent. You have to follow something for at least 90 days to be able to see any type of results from something like this. And so that's going to be the 4 requirements to creating content that's going to actually sign clients. So once we have the content ecosystem set up, again, we're thinking we got short form, we've got long form. We're taking seriously the kind of content we're posting. The next step then is we need to actually make it easy for people to find out information. One of the most low-hanging, obvious reasons right now that fitness coaches are struggling to get clients is because they are still showing up in the old way. And what I mean by that is most people right now are very jaded, right? A lot of people in the world, there's just so much going on a political scale, at an economic scale, like there's so much happening in the world. And a lot of people are just very guarded. They don't want to be sold to. Don't mistake that with that people don't want to purchase. People love to buy, but they just hate to feel sold to. And so what we need to do is we need to set up a world where it's easy for people to purchase in a way where they feel comfortable. So under the old way, the way that so many coaches are still doing, they're still taught to get a follower, post a ton of content to these people, send some DMs, get ghosted, follow up with them. Eventually, after following up with them, 30, 40 times, you get them booked in for a 15-minute discovery call. You take them through the discovery call. You hope that you don't mess that up. You hope that you get to the end and they want to book in a sales call. Then you get the sales call booked in. You hope that they actually show up to the sales call. You get to send some information over in between. Again, you're hoping you don't get ghosted on that next call. Then you get them on the call. You got to take them through a 45-minute call. You got to give a pitch and a presentation. That thing has to be perfect. Then you're going to get objections almost always. You got to handle those objections. You got to basically be like a high ticket closer. Then you drop the price on them, and only then does the client learn about the program. And again, you're trying to get people to sign up like right there on the spot. They've gone through this whole process. You've done all these things. That the whole process is just so long. And if you mess up any one thing in that entire process, you just basically lose the lead. Right? If somebody ghosts you on a call, you're pretty much you're going to really struggle to ever get them back on a call. With the new way, we create a single 10-minute video, and that 10-minute video just gives people all of the information about our program and what it is we actually do. And so we call this a mini VSL. Now the mini VSL, this is an asset that lives under all of our long form content. And so this is the way it kind of works. We're posting our profile, we're capturing attention. If you're posting good, again, relevant, authentic, belief shifting content, people are going to take notice. They're going to go, okay, wait a minute. Something here is different. They're going to start clicking around on your profile, and that's where they're going to come across your long form content. As they're consuming long form content, under that, we are then going to link this mini VSL. As people are going deep with us, they're binging our content, they're getting pre-sold, they're consuming 2, 3, 4, 5 hours of content. Then they run across our mini VSL, and our mini VSL literally just lays out to them, hey, this is the program, this is what it looks like, this is how I can help you. And then there's a call to action at the end of that mini VSL, which says, hey, if you've been consuming my content and you've watched this video and you like what it is I stand for, you like what I do, you're curious about my program and how we can actually just get started with this thing, go ahead and send me a DM and let's chat. And so all of our content is taking people, again, it's showing them the right content in the right way at the right time to actually take them through the sales process for us. And so our content is quite literally signing clients for us. They follow this through, they get hit with this call to action, they already know what the program is, they already know what it is we do, they understand, again, what the program actually looks like because we've recorded it inside of this 10-minute video. And so they reach out saying, hey, I just watched your video, I'm ready to go, can we talk about the program, pricing, and what this actually looks like? And so as a result, it is easy for people to take the next step with us. Again, under the old way, it was lots of dragging people, getting them onto these calls, getting them through these scripts, presenting to them perfectly, objection handling, and again, hoping that you didn't mess up. With the new way, we're just very transparent. We just literally are like, hey, here's our stuff. This is what I do. This is how I can help. If this is interesting to you, go ahead and hit me up and I'd love to chat. Again, by the time they even have this conversation, they already know who it is we are. They already know what we do. They understand how we can help. They've consumed ideally multiple hours of content. And so they are so deeply indoctrinated, or another way to view it is like they're just so deeply sold and interested in what we do that the sales calls are super easy. They're hardly even sales calls. It's more like, it's almost more like an onboarding call, right? Because they've gone through so much filtering of our content. And then people that are not a good fit, they just don't ever make it through that whole process. And so this is the difference. This is people, they're now asking us to actually sign them up to the program versus the old way is we're just forcing people through a funnel. And so I want to break down tactically. I know we've gone through a lot here. I want to pull back. I want to talk about tactically, what does my strategy look like? Let's bring this all together. I've got some common mistakes and pitfalls, some things that I want you to look out for. But practically, tactically, week to week, like what does my workflow actually look like? All right, so we've just talked through the strategy, talked through all of the systems and kind of what this ecosystem looks like and why good content is important and how we're much more transparent about what our program is, how it is we can help. So what does this actually look like in a day in the life? So I post content on my Facebook profile. The goal of that, again, is just to capture attention, get people actually interested in what I do, and eventually going to my YouTube channel. Now, it's on my YouTube channel where people are consuming hours and hours of content. They're going super deep. They're binging all of my stuff. And then below, if you go down to the description of my YouTube channel, you actually find my mini VSL. Because I'm posting content that's relevant, because I'm posting content that is authentic, it's belief shifting, and I'm consistently speaking to one single ideal client, the right people find me. They filter through this entire system. They watch that mini VSL that's linked down below. It breaks down what my program is, how I can actually help you, what it is I do. And again, at the very end, there's just a simple invitation, a simple call to action to, hey, if you're liking, what I do, how I set things up, go ahead and reach out to me and let's chat. And so it's a really, really, really simple process. The warning here that I want to give you, some of the most common mistakes, you might be listening to this and you might be going, okay, cool, Tell. This is interesting, but it's nothing earth shattering. Everybody's saying you need to post content. It's 2025. Everybody is posting content. We all understand that content is important. You've probably heard that you should actually be posting on social media. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you've probably been posting content for many years now. So that's nothing new. The thing that I would say is that you can give 2 fitness clients the exact same program, and 6 months later, they're going to get entirely different results. And the reason for that is because it's not always so much the strategy that is the difference maker. It's the person that's implementing it. It's the way they implement it. It's the consistency at which they implement it. It's their mindset. The thing that really is important here inside of if you want to use content to sign clients is the message you deliver, right? More than just like, hey, you need to post content. It's like, well, what's the actual message, right? And making sure that we're posting the right stuff. What's the voice that you're using? How are you actually showing up? How consistently are you showing up? These are the things that we have to get right. It's not that content is necessarily this big revolutionary idea. It's what's the skill set that's coming behind this? Are we actually posting good content? Is it relevant content? Does it speak to the ideal client specifically? Does it actually shift their beliefs? This is the difference maker between content that signs clients and content that, again, is just a little bit generic, a little bit vague, and it's just ultimately not going to work. And so the thing that I want to recommend here to you to actually get this all figured out, to avoid, again, some of these common pitfalls of just being like, oh, well, content's nothing new, on to the next. I want to give you 3 stages to actually work through this. Number 1, when you are actually trying to get better at the skill of content creation, when you're trying to actually hone in your message, figure out your voice, we need to go through a volume stage. In the volume stage, we are just putting out tons of content. We're not judging the content too much, we're just posting. And we're posting very, very frequently, maybe even sometimes upwards of multiple times per day. And what we're trying to do in the volume stage is we're just trying different platforms, possibly different mediums. Like we're trying to figure out like what is going to actually work for us. In the volume stage, it's figuring out what clicks with you. I have some clients that like to be on video. I have some clients that like to do reels. I have some clients, they don't like any of that at all, and they would rather just write. There's no right or wrong answer. All of the platforms can work. We have to figure out what's going to actually work for you. And so number 1, we have to go through a volume stage. Figure out what is going to work best for you. Stage 2 then is we need to go through a value stage. Stage 2 is now that we've done a bunch of things, we need to cut away and we need to hone in on what is going to work best for you. The value stage is getting rid of volume and instead honing in on the specific platform and styles of content that's going to work best for you. And then stage number 3 is now that we've figured out the strategy for you, the platform for you, what's going to work best for you, then we lean into a volume and a value stage. And typically this requires some sort of like content team. We're talking about like maybe a video editor, a virtual assistant, a marketing assistant. This is where we really lean into, cool, we found the strategy that's going to work for us, so let's like ramp this thing up. And so the common pitfall again is it's not just about the strategy, it's understanding the actual skill that goes into creating content that is going to sign clients. And so to wrap this all up, I know we've covered a lot of material here today. There's 4 things that we need to make decisions on, or there's 4 things that we need to implement to make this content ecosystem work. Number 1 is we need to pick our platform, right? We need to pick your channels. We need to be creating short form content. We also need to be creating long form content because again, we're trying to get people to go super deep with us. So what are going to be your platforms? Where are you going to actually post? Number 2, then we need to get super clear on your ideal client psychology. What is going to be relevant content? What is going to be authentic content? What is going to be belief shifting content? Again, think about that radio dial. We're trying to dial in specifically to your ideal client and your ideal client alone. And then number 3, we need to make it easy for people to get more information from us. So once we understand who the ideal client is, what's clicking with them, what's a good message for them, once we understand your voice, putting together a 10-minute video that breaks down what the program is, how you can actually help people, and making it easy for people to actually get information. And then the 4th thing that I'm going to add on here at the very end is the last thing to this all is we have to make it fun. All right. If it's not fun, it's not going to be attractive. One of the biggest things right now that is signing clients is having fun on social media. And I know this sounds a little bit esoteric and woo-woo, but the energy that you're bringing to the platform, it needs to be attractive. It needs to be fun. It needs to be engaging. Like you want to create a world where people actually want to like be a part of what you're doing, right? It needs to actually be engaging and fun and exciting to be a part of, not only for them, but also for you. All right. Because nobody wants to show up and consume boring content or consume content where you can tell the person's just kind of like half checked in, half checked out. You need to have fun. You need to have something that works for you first and foremost. All right. First and foremost, it needs to work for you. It needs to be fun for you because that's ultimately going to get reflected. It's going to attract people to you because they see the fun and the energy and the excitement. And so that wraps up. This concludes this video. I hope that you found this helpful and useful. This again is the shift that I really made from when my content was, and really just like all my client signing just was very forceful. It was just lots and lots of volume and just dragging people across the line, to when my business has really shifted and I began to realize, hey, it's not just about getting leads and forcing people over the line. It's actually about finding the right clients, the right people that are actually a good fit for my program. And so with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this one off here, and I'll see you in the next one.